Prague off the beaten track. Vít Pohanka takes you away from the crowds to the city's hidden gems.
Hello and welcome to Prague off the beaten track on Czechast. I'm Vít Pohanka, and in this episode we are stepping inside one of Prague's oldest and most fascinating churches. It's hidden just a stone's throw from the crowds of Národní, Třída and Wenceslas Square. For many visitors, I believe churches are places to admire for a few minutes before moving on to the next attraction. But some reward those who linger a little longer. And the Church of St. Martin in the Wall is definitely one of them. So, let's step inside with a very well-informed guide.
My name is Karel Pacovský, and I'm from Prague. I am a historian. I teach at the Faculty of Arts of Charles University, and I also teach at a high school in Prague. I teach some Latin and introduction to the medieval culture and medieval manuscripts. I also study theology, Protestant theology, and I am thinking of becoming a Protestant pastor. So these are...
Where are we now? What is this place?
We are in the Church of St. Martin in the Wall, which is a very nice example of a medieval church in Prague that was built in the 12th century, so the oldest parts were built before 1180. It's very old. Then it was extended in the 14th century, and then later the side aisles here, they were added in the 15th century.
Right, but I suppose like in case of most churches there were some fires, I mean there were some changes, right?
Yeah, maybe the most important change here was the abolition of the church, or when the church was closed by Emperor Joseph II.
That would be late 18th century?
In 1785, and the church was changed to apartments, some shops, and then it didn't resemble a church anymore, and then it was renewed as a church in the early 20th century.
It's called In the Wall. Why is that?
Because when the city of Prague was built around this church in the 13th century, the church that was originally in the center of a village here became part of Prague, and one of its walls was included into the fortification of the newly established city of Prague, or now we call it the Old Town of Prague.
So it was in a way part of the fortification, or it was built into the fortification in the wall.
In the wall, but the church was older than the wall, so the wall was just built a little bit later, after 1230, and the wall was here for a long time. Then Charles IV founded the new town of Prague, and then it didn't make sense to have the wall here anymore, but the name survives. Yeah.
Just for the listeners to imagine, I mean, we are still now in the old town, but the Národní třída, Národní Street, we would say Národní Avenue or something, that's where the new town begins, right?
Yes, and exactly at this point where we are now, we are already behind the old wall. We are in the side aisle of the church, we are in the southern aisle of the church, and here where we stand, the listeners cannot imagine it very well, but here really was the wall separating us now from the main nave, which was in the old town of Prague, and now we here are standing already outside in the fortification of the old town of Prague.
You're a historian, and I'm just curious. I always thought that Národní třída was kind of built when they tore down the old town walls.
Yes.
I mean, that's when it was kind of created. Is that correct?
I think there was already a street along the moat, the ditch, part of the fortification. And then later, after the 14th century, when the new town of Prague was built, then slowly the wall was removed and the ditch was filled in with new soil. So I think the ditch was still visible there maybe until the 18th century, maybe until the 19th century. So it lasted a long time.
I've been walking around this church for such a long time, and rarely do we stop sometimes and look around a little bit. If you were to describe, what is special about this place?
This place is special, first of all, because of its history connected with the Bohemian Reformation, the Czech Reformation. When we walk around, we will see the chalice, the golden chalice with the Bible over there in the front. It commemorates the famous event here in 1414 when the Hussites began to serve the Holy Communion under both kinds. Not only giving bread to the lay people, but wine as well. And it was the first, or one of the first 4 churches in Prague where this practice began, which was then very typical for the Hussites, that it became even their symbol, the chalice.
You know, it seems to me that sometimes in the 21st century we do not appreciate how important this was. This was not just about a formal act, because in the what we now call Catholic Church, in the then proper church, it was only the priests who could take wine, right? But when the people could take wine, I mean, it kind of leveled leveled all the people, right?
Yes.
Do I say that correctly?
Yeah. It had a deep symbolical meaning, and they really wanted to obey the words of Jesus, who said that everybody should receive from the chalice. And it was also connected with the Eucharistic devotion of that time, because before the Hussites started this communion under both kinds, they also preferred the frequent communion, to go to the Eucharist as often as possible.
And perhaps, again, I mean, back to the significance for them, perhaps you couldn't even reach salvation if you didn't receive communion in the right way, right?
Yes.
So it was about your future life.
Yeah,
basically.
And for them it was really important. We know, for example, there is the Chronicle of Lawrence of Březova, and this event, the beginning of this practice of the Holy Communion under both kinds, is the beginning of the whole Chronicle of Lawrence of Březova. So it was really an event that changed the history for the Hussites, this renewed practice.
And back to this church, I mean, this is one of the places where it was first practiced.
Yes,
probably.
And it's practiced until today, or again, because this church was a Utrechtist church, so they practiced this Holy Communion under both kinds until the 1620s, until the time this belonged to the Czech church, Czech Utrechtist church, the Hussite church. Then it was given to the Roman Catholic Church, as every other church in Prague, during the Habsburg rule. And then this...
That probably followed the renewed constitution of the Czech lands. I think that is the English translation. Obnovené zřízení zemské. First for Bohemia, then later, 1 year later, for Moravia. When officially the only church was allowed was the Catholic Church.
Yes, right. So it was after the Bohemian revolt against the Habsburgs, after the Battle of White Mountain.
So how did this church come back to the Protestant denominations?
It was in the early 20th century when the city of Prague decided not to demolish this old structure that was already changed to apartments and shops, but to recreate here a church. The original plans were to create here a museum of the Hussite movement. But then it just became church. There were English-speaking services even for a certain time.
Even then?
Yeah. I think in the time of the First Republic and until the Second World War. But slowly also the Czech services started here. In the time of the First Republic, the church was given to the Evangelical Church of Czech Brethren, which is the church that operates here until today. And there is also...
And I mean, I'm just curious. I read that the church is actually renting it, right? From the city of Prague?
Yeah. So the city of Prague is owner of few churches in Prague. St. Martin in the Wall, St. Ignatius on Charles Square, St. Nicholas at the Old Town Square. and maybe also some others. These churches have in common that they were closed by Emperor Joseph II.
Right.
And
so they kind of
confiscated,
were transferred later on to the city of Prague.
And city of Prague now rents for long term these buildings to different denominations.
And just correct me if I'm wrong, St. Nicholas on the Old Town Square, that's Československá církev Hussitská, the Czechoslovak Hussite Church. Well, this is Czech Brethren. And St. Ignatius on the Charles Square, that's Catholic.
Yeah, Roman Catholic.
Roman Catholic. You had a breakfast here. Yeah. How often do you meet here? How often do people...
Usually during the academic year, it's every Tuesday morning at 7:30 we meet. There is usually a short prayer, singing, some work like devotion, let's say, and then afterwards people can just speak together, stay here, drink some coffee.
It's kind of small community of people who believe in God.
Yeah, and these are always like different people. It's not always the same group. Sometimes more young people will come, sometimes more elderly people come, and it's just mixed. And also the people who have the program, they are also different. These can be like pastors, these can be just students, just anybody who is here and is willing to say something or to read something.
But there are Sunday services, right?
There are Sunday services. Today there are no more the English-speaking services, but German-speaking services. I think this is a tradition after the fall of communism that the German-speaking parish, Protestant parish, started here. So every Sunday morning there is a German service, and every Sunday evening there is a Czech service. These Czech evening services have a long tradition. Maybe it begins already in the 1950s or 60s when the professors and students of the Protestant Theological Faculty started to have here kind of the university or academic services. And it's like this until today, that this church is mostly associated with young people and the university.
The Evangelical Theological Faculty.
That's today it's part of Charles University. So sometimes you can hear here the students of the faculty who have their first sermons here, or the professors of the university as well. This church is quite unique. Maybe it's the only church in the Czech Republic that doesn't have a stable pastor or
permanent kind of,
permanent
or at least
minister, vicar, or anything like this. But even the preachers here, they change every week. Every week preaches someone new, somebody different. So there are maybe like 50 names all around the year that you can meet here in this church. And these are various people. Mostly these are Protestant pastors, but sometimes we have also preachers from the Roman Catholic Church. In 2 weeks there will be a Jesuit preacher who lives at Charles Square at St. Ignatius. We had here last year, for example, a Benedictine abbess preaching here. So these are men and women. So we say that the chancel here is very open, and you can hear here many different styles of sermons, and also the liturgy quite changes depending on the person that leads the service.
So if someone visits Prague, is perhaps not a churchgoer on a regular basis, but would like to have this kind of spiritual experience.
Yes.
What would you recommend? When to come? And why?
So if you know German, you can come for the German service on Sunday at 10:30. Then at 7:30 p.m. we have the Czech services. Maybe you will find somebody here who would help you to understand. So at least you can hear the nice songs accompanied by the organ or by young people on guitar. So maybe it's just nice to sit here and listen.
And anyone can come.
Anyone can come. It's very open. You can even come for the breakfast. We can also change to English or German. But there is maybe the only English-speaking option here are the These prayers. They are every first Monday of the month, except for the summer. So it's every first Monday of the month at 7:30 p.m. It's a nice, let's say, prayer, or it's rather singing of songs in different languages. So it's not only in Czech, it's not only in English, it's also in Latin, French, Spanish, etc. And everything what's being read or said is always read or said in English and in Czech, so it's bilingual. So this is like the international offer of this church, and you are welcome to come.
Last question. My daughter actually, as it happened, this past weekend, she asked me how many churches are there in Prague. And I said, well, that's a difficult question because there are prayer rooms. I mean, there are different nominations, different denominations, there are different churches, etc. But the official figures are somewhere between 160 to 200, depending on what you count a church. Now, after this long introduction, where does St. Martin in the Wall fit into this kind of very colorful, I would say, mixture?
Okay. So I think this church is maybe like a first step to go for, like maybe a safe space to come at the first glance, or to see the church or the Christian life for the first time, I would say, because the community here is not closed, it's very open. You can find here many different young people coming, students. The church, the people here always change. It's not always the same. The preachers here always change. In this, let's say, in this big picture of Prague churches, this church is more traditional. So if you like organ, singing old Czech songs, or even new songs, or this is kind of mixture. So you can hear songs sung with the guitar, but also songs that were written by Jan Hus and his followers. So there is a big variety, and it's quite formal. So the service here is very formal. So for many people, this can be quite safe, because you are not surprised by
what's going on.
By too much intimacy or anything. And if you are used to a Roman Catholic liturgy, the liturgy here is also quite traditional, similar to the Catholic churches.
Well, that's it for this episode of Prague of the Beaten Track. As always, I recommend checking the series page on the Radio Prague International website, where you will find some useful practical information and a map. And if you like this program, or at least found it informative, please remember to follow it or subscribe to it on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you for listening, and as we say in Czech, naslyšenou.
Prague off the beaten track. Vít Bohanka takes you away from the crowds to the city's hidden gems.